Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to those of you that are joining us from the West. Welcome to our Gastroenterology webinar. My name is Michele Blanshard. I lead the Genie Solutions, the practice management division of Magentus. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to begin, though, by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet virtually today. For me, that's the Turrbal people and the Yagara people here in Brisbane. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Just two little housekeeping items. There is a Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to type questions throughout the webinar in there. We will type back some answers to those questions we can answer really easily, or we may answer some questions live at the end. And also, if there are questions that we can't answer, we'll let you know and we will come back to you later via email with a response to those questions. Also, at the end of the webinar, there will be a quick pop-up survey, and I do ask you to stay on. It's really important for us to hear your feedback on how the content landed or what you think is missing, so we can continue to evolve these webinars. You won't just hear from me today, you'll hear from Neve Tobin. Neve's our Director of Product Strategy and Design, and Neve will be taking you through the roadmaps of both Genie and Gentu. Why we're doing both together is, well, firstly, there's users of both products on the webinar today, but also we are aware there's a lot of practices that use Genie that are curious about Gentu and want to know the progress of Gentu. So we will be covering both products today. Also, hear from Sean Nolan, who's our customer education specialist, and Sean will be sharing some tips and tricks and with you how you can get more out of your either Genie or Gentu software. So I'd also like to start by saying thank you for the last pretty much 2 years as you've bared with us as we proceeded through an inordinate number of compliance projects that we were required to build and deliver under the direction of the government. They're everything from Medicare web services, active ingredient prescribing, My HR, immunisation registry, and most recently e-prescribing. We're really pleased to have finished all that work now in both Genie and Gentu. And then the other project was the 4D uplift. So those of you that are Genie Mac users, much awaited move to 64-bit compliance, and we're really pleased to have been able to finish that work as well. And so what that means for us is that all of our development teams are now pointed in the direction of building features and functionality that you've been asking for the last couple of years. We do collect all of that information that you ask, then you share with us. Neve will talk a little bit about that, what we call the Voice of Customer program. But we do thank you, and I think hopefully you'll be pleased with what you see we're already starting to work on. So we're really excited about the next couple of years and what we'll be able to deliver to you, our customers, in both Genie and Gentu. You also would have heard or received an email from me about a month ago, alerting to an overarching brand change to the brand of Magentus. About 18 months ago, Genie Solutions was acquired by a private equity group. And that private equity group own a number of health software technology businesses, and we're just finally bringing them together under the brand of Magentus. So what that means for us is there's real opportunity for us across the other software is presence in Australia and in the UK, and we will be looking for synergies and opportunities to collaborate together, bring some of their technology to you to help solve some of your problems. So we are still run independently. So everything that you know and love from a trainer and support, etc. perspective will remain intact, but we have the added bonus of being part of a bigger organisation and access to a broader range of technologies. So now I'm going to hand over to Neve, and she's going to talk you through both the Gentu and then the Genie roadmaps. Thanks, Neve.
Thanks, Michelle. Hi, everyone. My name is Neve Tobin, and I'm the Director of Product Strategy and Design here at Genie. Today, I want to share a little bit about what's happening on our product roadmap, as Michelle mentioned. But before I do that, I did just want to spend a minute talking to you about what we call our platform vision, as it's how we see ourselves helping you, the medical professionals, really deliver on better health outcomes over the coming years. So the practice management systems vision is centered around this common technology platform that sits between Genie and Gentu. This foundational technology platform is really important because it's what's actually going to allow us to provide ongoing product innovations into the future. Some of these we will develop ourselves, but some of these will actually be developed by third-party integrations into both Genie and Gentu. These innovations are centered around three key objectives. The first one is how can we improve the patient experience and really provide efficiency and automation across the patient journey for your practice. The second one is how can we connect up what is a very disconnected ecosystem today. We're conscious that practitioners often don't have all of the information that is required at the point of care, and we want to make that a better experience for everyone and make sure that it's readily available. And the third area is how might we bring data-driven insights into the workflow of practitioners. So here we're starting to think about clinical decision support. How could we provide workflow assistance, or how could we deliver insights to you that will help your overall business performance and practice performance? So we've been working on this vision for a number of years now, and we are making good progress. Patient forms, patient payments, and specialist bookings have all been products that we've worked on to automate the patient journey. And two products that we released in the last 6 months, one which was Voice for Gentu practices, and then Insights for Genie practices, are actually the first set of partners that are using our new APIs. But all of this would only become a reality alongside Genie and Gentu, which are our core practice management system products. And so the updates I'm going to be providing today will be largely centered around these products. We will talk about some of the things we're doing on the periphery. I'm going to start with Gentu first, which is our cloud practice management system, and then follow that with Genie, the desktop solution. So we know that for many Genie customers on the call today, that over 50% of you are interested in moving to the cloud. We understand the challenges that are associated, the challenges and the costs, I guess, that are associated with running hardware locally. And we also get that flexible access to your practice management system is really required when you're running a busy practice. This is why we're delighted to say that we are stepping up a gear and really doubling down on getting Gentu ready for Genie customers, and also improving the experience for our existing Gentu users today. And to do that, what we've done is we've doubled the number of teams that are working on core Gentu experiences. In addition to improving core workflows, we're also developing a mobile app. There are several hundred practices using this at the moment with our Voice product. We want it to be available to all Gentu practices. We also now have a dedicated team working on the process for moving data from Genie to Gentu, but also within Gentu practices if existing users decide to move around. And we're accelerating the progress on our marketplace. So this will allow you to connect third-party products that you're already using in your practice today. These could be transcription, or online booking tools, and allow them to integrate in with Gentu. And so I'm really excited to provide a general update today, but also provide you with a little bit more detail about the roadmap updates for both Gentu and then Genie. So the great news is that with your support, Gentu is doing really well. As we look at the specialist practice market and we understand the number of specialists that are moving to the cloud, we know that about 40% of specialists have already actually made that move. And of those that have moved, half of them are using Gentu. So this means that Gentu is the fastest growing cloud practice management software in Australia, and it currently supports over 1,500 practices. This means that Gentu practices are supporting the care of over 10 million patients. And at the moment, Gentu practices have actually provided more than 28 million appointments and over 2.7 billion in healthcare services. We have a really diverse group of specialties using Gentu. About 60% are procedural specialists, and about 40% are non-procedural groups like psychiatry and pediatrics. If we actually look at gastroenterology as a whole, across Genie solutions, what we see is that 31% of all of practices are now using Gentu. Some of these practices would have gotten started at the very beginning on Gentu, and some of them would have migrated from Genie to Gentu. What we do see is that the majority of Gentu practices today, though, are single practitioner practices. We do have quite a number of small multi-practitioner practices, but the numbers do start to decrease as we get into those larger practice sizes. A question we're often getting asked from Genie customers is Gentu suitable for my practice, or when would be the right time for me to move from Genie to Gentu? So we thought it might be helpful to share with you a little bit of insight around who has already made the move. What we see here is that, again, a broad range of specialties are represented. Orthopedics, obstetrics, general surgery, and psychiatry account for some of the largest groups, but most specialties have made the move successfully. 18 months ago, when we looked at the size of practices migrating from Genie to Gentu, it was primarily single practitioners. But looking at this chart on the right-hand side, you'll see that now a significant number of 2 to 3 practitioner practices and many Genie practices that have been in business for an extended period of time, more than 10 years, have migrated successfully. And so when you're thinking about your move to Gentu, it's less about your specialty or the size of your practice and more about the breadth and the depth of the functionality that you use within Genie today. And so what we are going to be doing over the coming months is holding some group demonstrations so that we can provide you with greater insight into how different workflows occur in Gentu and really work with you to understand when is the right time for your practice to move. But to get ready for Genie customers to migrate and to improve the experience for existing Gentu customers, we really have been listening to your feedback, as Michele mentioned. Over the years, we've built a rigorous voice of customer system, which is really centered around every interaction that we have with our practices. So this could be on the phone, an email inquiry that you send through to support. It could be our trainers coming on site to help you with some workflow improvements. But every piece of feedback that we get is captured. And this feedback repository has over 2,500 pieces of feedback, and we regularly review it to understand what is the most important things for us to focus on. If you are watching and think I have feedback that I haven't shared recently but would really like to share, then there is a new opportunity for you to provide this feedback for us. We sent out an initial email yesterday to let customers know that we would be performing a customer survey. This is going to be run by an independent group called Gentu, but this survey will ask questions about what your experience is today with Genie and Gentu and where you would like to see us focus our attention in the months ahead. There'll be another email coming out today, which will actually contain a link to the survey itself. It does take about 15 minutes to complete, but please, we really would appreciate if you can take that time to share with us your feedback, and this will be then incorporated into the decisions that we make into the future. But if we have a look at the feedback that we've received so far, what it does is it really highlights areas such as outgoing correspondence and templating across SMS, invoicing, and quotes as the key areas for improvement in Gentu, as well as a number of improvements required in the consulting with patients workflow. So if we look at the Gentu Roadmap, I hope you'll see how this feedback has informed the roadmap over the last few months, and also what we are working on now and into the next few months. A key focus area for Gentu has been on improving that consulting with patients workflow. This started off with a switch over to MIMS for our medicines data. And then, of course, we've been working on e-prescribing. We also recently launched a voice dictation product in our mobile app, and the teams have now turned their attention to improvements in outgoing correspondence and SMS. So a couple of weeks ago, we released e-prescribing in Gen2 with MIMS as our medicines database partner and ERX as our partner for script exchange. We know many practices have been waiting some time for this. There are a number of steps that are needed to be completed outside of Gen2 with PRODA, MIMS, or ERX to be able to activate e-prescribing. But this is all captured on our knowledge base. So if you've been waiting to use e-prescribing, then please jump onto the knowledge base and have a read of those steps so that you can get it set up and activated to use. Voice, as I mentioned, is an exciting new product available via the Gentu mobile app. It's powered by Nuance voice-to-text technology, and it aims to support practitioners to spend less time on clinical documentation. As I mentioned, we have hundreds of practitioners now using voice, and we can really see significant improvements in practitioners dictating much closer to the time of the appointment or the time that they've had the appointment with the patient. And what this means is that the time that it takes to get the letter finalized and actually communicated back out to the referring doctor or the interested parties for that practitioner is greatly reduced. We are continuing to improve this product, and some of the recent improvements include being able to see who you've dictated for on any given day, and also voice commands to populate patient information automatically from their record into the dictation. Right now, the teams have turned their attention to SMS and outgoing correspondence. For those Gentu users that are on the call, you will have seen that very recently we enabled the ability to create multiple SMS templates and then use these templates for sending ad hoc or bulk SMS messaging. The team has also added some new filters into the patient list. So this is going to allow practices to filter the patient list for a given appointment day, or to filter the list for patients that don't have a referral, as an example, and then be able to use SMS as a way to communicate en masse with these patients. We are going to be continuing to improve SMS over the coming months. Those are the items that we've just released in the last couple of weeks. But in the coming months, what we'll really be doing is adding further points in your workflow where you can communicate with the patient via SMS. So this includes things like results, recalls, appointment confirmations, or actions that you want to take pre and post appointment. Improving the letter writer is currently our top priority and has 3 of our 4 Gentu teams working on it right now. Again, for those Gentu customers on the call, you'll have seen some of these changes get released in just the last week. But for Genie customers on the call, what we're doing there is really just improving the letter writer that existed in Gen2. There was lots to improve, including the ability to add multiple letterheads, improving the formatting of the letter writer itself, and also increasing the breadth of letter references that you're able to use to populate information into a letter template. We also want to build out the capability to use macros in letters. Currently, it's possible to have macros in the consultation notes area, but soon it will be available in both. We also know that lots of people use secure messaging via HealthLink, Medical Objects, Argus to send letters to referring doctors or care team members. And many people want to be able to include additional documents in these letters that get sent electronically. And so we will be enabling documents such as pathology results to be included in letters that are sent via SMD. Also recently in the correspondence area, we enabled the ability to email letters directly to patients. Previously, you could have a letter template that you printed out and provided to the patient, but now you can email it directly to the patient from within Gen2. And so then the next things that are on the roadmap are initially, the first thing will be our mobile app. As I mentioned, we do want to release the mobile app to all Gentu practices. We have a couple of 100 practices using this at the moment with voice, but we want it to be available to everyone. Initially, it will allow you to view your appointment book, clinical notes with or clinical information associated with the patient. But over time, we are also going to be adding tasks such as the ability to create consult notes, the ability to create or action tasks or to-dos that exist within your practice, and also upload and annotate images. Alongside this, the teams will be looking at the incoming documents workflows. So currently, to add a scanned document to a patient record, these need to be done individually on a per patient basis. So what we want to do is we want to create a workflow similar to Genie's process folder, where all of the documents come into a centralized location. And from there, you can triage if a doctor needs to review, or a practitioner, needs to review a document, or it can just be filed immediately into the patient's record. There's also a number of improvements that we'll be making in the clinical area of Gen2. We will be starting with some improvements on how the screen is laid out and how you search for or find information, and how you preview information in the clinical area. A particular area of focus is actually going to be procedures, including improvements to how people prepare for procedure and document their procedure notes. So we will be focusing on the concept of procedure templates similar to Genie, and we're hoping that will make the documentation of procedure notes far more efficient than it is today. And then finally, for Gen 2, we have some new functionality that's in the early stages of testing with key industry partners. So with Sonic Healthcare, who are Sullivan and Nicolaides, Clinipath, Douglas Hanley Moyer, Melbourne Pathology, depending upon the state that you're located in, we have developed an e-ordering solution for pathology. The first set of customers will be going live with this shortly in Queensland, and then we are planning on rolling that out nationally. In May, we also went live with a pilot for our first e-bookings workflow. So here we've partnered with a large private hospital provider to take procedure booking information from the back end of Genie and Gen 2 and straight to the hospital bookings team, really removing the need for practice staff to continually update theatre lists and email or fax those across to the bookings teams. And then last but not least, we're conscious that many of you use products in your practice that do not currently integrate with the PMS. So this could be booking products, it could be transcription, telehealth, or patient engagement tools. And so over the coming months, we're doing the foundational work that's needed for practices to be able to connect these products into their core practice management system workflows. So as you'll see, there's lots happening to build on Gen 2's capability. As Michele mentioned, we really do appreciate that new feature development has been slow recently and hasn't met your expectations. So we're looking forward to sharing more and more of these progress updates with you in the coming months. Now, I know that many of you on the call will be existing Genie customers. And so while we are investing more than ever in Gen 2's in building out Gentu's capability, we are going to continue to add new functionality and address your feedback for Genie as well. If we take a look at that feedback for Genie, the top areas of concern have been consulting with patients as well. And specifically, this was around e-prescribing and ordering of diagnostic tests. We also received lots of feedback about how we can improve patient forms and a significant number of requests for improvement to the SMS workflows. And so if we take a look at the Genie roadmap, again, you'll see how this feedback has influenced what we are working on. Recently for Genie, our focus has been on 64-bit and then on the initial release of e-prescribing. In April this year, we also launched Insights. Right now, we've been focused on improvements to the e-prescribing workflows. The next release of version 10, which will bring back native word capability. And then into the future, we'll be looking at further improvements to consultation workflows, in particular, real-time prescription monitoring. So I'm going to talk again in a little bit more detail about each of these. I'll start with Insights. Insights is a product we developed with Cubico. It's a practice intelligence platform which analyzes your appointment and financial data to help you better understand where your referrals are coming from or how your practice is performing. We have a number of Genie practices that are now up and running with Insights, and they're telling us that Insights is saving them hours every week on gathering, reporting information, and is also identifying opportunities for both process and business performance improvement, which is great. Genie version 10, as you know, is the 64-bit version of Genie. Michele mentioned we have been working on 64-bit for a period of time. We launched this first version of 64-bit late last year. Since then, over 30% of practices have upgraded to version 10. Since the upgrade, we've had a really small number of practices, less than 30, experience some performance issues. And so what we have been focused on most recently was really addressing these performance issues, so that the next release of version 10, which is 10.2.1, will contain improvements to performance. It also contains the native word capability. So for those that may have upgraded to the earlier versions of version 10, you'll know that you weren't able to preview Word documents within version 10, or there was some challenge with importing or exporting of Word documents. Version 10.2.1 resolves all of those issues, which is great. We have released version 10.2.1 to a small subset of customers this week, and it'll be available for a more general release very shortly. Since launch, jumped ahead. Since launching e-prescribing earlier this year, we have received quite a bit of feedback from our practices. We have a large number of practices using it, and practices are sending more than 40,000 scripts each month now, which is great to see. But what we have received feedback on is practices are wanting to have more flexibility around modifying things like quantity, repeats, or authority status for individual medicines that are sent via e-prescribing. And so we've actioned this together with the performance improvements, and that will also be available in Genie version 10.2.1. Following this release of 10.2.1, though, where our attention is going to turn to real-time prescription monitoring. Currently, many of you might be using products such as SafeScript, external to Genie, to monitor the prescription and use of controlled medicines for your patients. So this next set of improvements will bring that real-time prescription monitoring information into your prescription workflow, so you'll be aware of it before you actually complete the prescription for the patient. As I mentioned before, your feedback also highlighted that you really wanted to see improvements on how you communicate with patients. We're therefore going to be building on existing SMS capability in Genie to enable practices to first of all, send appointment reminders per appointment type. So perhaps you have a different type of reminder that you like to send for a new patient versus a review patient, or for a certain procedure that they might be having. So you'll be able to set those templates up and then set a preference for the appointment that goes for that. Set a preference for the information that is sent for that particular appointment. The other thing that we'll be doing is enabling practices to send multiple reminders for one appointment. So some practices have told us that they want to send an appointment 7 days prior, but again, 24 hours prior. So we will be enabling that. And then last but not least, in patient communications, we will provide the ability for practices to have a dedicated phone number that patients receive the SMS communications from. Given the volume of spam messages that are occurring today, we know it's important that patients are confident that the messages they are receiving are actually coming from your practice. In the second half of the year, we will also be enabling online eligibility checking in Genie. So currently it's not possible to check the level of cover a patient has with their health fund unless you actually jump on the phone and speak to the health fund directly. We know that practices are spending either huge amounts of time on the phone with health funds to find this information, or patients are going in to theatre, having the procedure done, and you're finding out afterwards that the patient wasn't covered for that procedure. This is actually the second most requested feature in our Voice of Customer program. And so we're really looking forward to being able to bring that into the workflows within Genie. And then finally for Genie, similar to Gen 2, we will have the new workflows for e-orders and e-bookings. These new features will all be part of the current subscription that you pay for with Genie, but it will actually require that you are on Genie version 10.2.1 or later. So if you haven't updated to version 10 yet, please do start having a conversation with your IT person about a time, scheduling in a time to update your system to version 10, particularly now that 10.2 is available. So look, thank you everyone for your feedback. It really is incredibly valuable for us to understand what is important to you. And I hope you can see that your feedback really does inform the items that we're going to be working on our roadmap over the coming months. I'm going to hand over to Sean now, who's going to talk you through some tips and tricks for gastroenterology practices in both Genie and Gen 2.
Thank you, Niamh. For those who have yet to meet me, my name is Sean Nolan, and I'm the Customer Education Specialist here at Genie Solutions. I have over 10 years experience in training customers in both Genie and Gen 2. And what I want to do as part of the last part of today's presentation is go through tips and tricks that I've found useful for gastroenterology practices. I'll be starting with Genie first. So the first tool I like to introduce are what we call procedure templates. This is something Niamh mentioned is coming to Gen 2 in the near future. It is a function currently available in Genie, and the nice thing about procedure templates, it allows when you're doing the same procedure, it brings in the procedure name, item numbers, as operation notes, and a few other bits of information from that procedure window automatically into a template for you. So to create a procedure template, we first need to create a brand new procedure. So we select the patient and we're going to type in a name of a procedure. If this is a procedure you commonly do, you can also add it to the menu by clicking Add to Menu here. If I click OK, how this Add to Menu works is if I were to open up a procedure, I'm just going to remove that procedure name I had before. Here's a menu of common procedure names I can choose. So I really recommend choosing Add to Menu as one way to save your time with your procedures. The other way you can save time with procedures are the procedure templates. So if you're typing in the same pre-operation, post-op diagnosis, indication, and pre-op notes, for instance, I'm going to say first on list here. If I go to my quotes tab, maybe you're using the same item number for your procedure. So I'm going to type in an item number. Maybe you're typing in the same operation notes every time you do a single procedure, like I've got example over here. I'm going to choose Save Template, and I'm going to give this template a name. Next, I'm going to show you how you use these procedure templates to save you time. So I'm going to book in a patient for a procedure. I go to the green person icon, and I'm going to click Load Template this time. Here's my procedure templates. I'm going to choose the one I had before. You will see that my pre-op notes have filled, my item number has filled, and my operation notes have filled. So procedure templates are a fantastic way to save you time when you're booking in your procedures. A question I commonly get asked about procedure templates is, what happens if I'm doing a procedure and maybe there might be something different for this one patient in their pre-op notes, maybe something different in the findings, technique, or post-op fields, or I want to add in an additional item number sometimes, but not all the time. What you do in that instance is you create your procedure template with the information that remains the same. And when you load your template and you've got a patient, you need to make maybe an extra word or maybe change a couple of words in your finding, technique, and post-op, you just make that change live. So procedure templates for your 99% of information that stays consistent, you change it on a one-off basis for that 1% where it is different. Another tool I like to introduce are what we call custom forms. The idea behind a custom form, it's a tool that's built into Genie and reduces the need to handwrite any paper-based forms. Commonly for gastroenterology practices, I find this might be hospital admission and consent paperwork forms, but there's a large category of forms that you can use this particular tool for. I'm going to show you how you can download forms from our servers. There are also, if you've got a PDF copy of a form on your computer, if you go to our knowledge base for custom forms, it does mention how you can upload a PDF copy into Genie directly that you can fill out in your own time. So if you've got a form you want to download from our servers, we go to our special menu in Genie and we choose software updates. We move across to the Forms tab. Here are different categories of forms. So for instance, many hospital admission forms we have already created for our practices. Same for hospital consent forms. Now, if you want to download a form in particular, you tick the form you want on the right-hand side, then you choose Import one item. This downloads the form ready to be used in Genie. So next, I'm just going to show you that there's other forms in categories. So for instance, there's PBS forms. There's a whole list of categories you can look for your forms. If you want to use a custom form, in our merge letter screen, you can see that green slope submission is here with a green page icon. And we already have pre-filled demographic and procedure information. From here, it can be printed out. And the nice thing with that print background box ticked at the top left means it prints out on plain A4 paper, meaning you don't have to get the hospital forms. You can just use plain paper to print this out. Another nice thing I like to point out about custom forms is the Save Copy and Clinical Record tick box at the top. So if this box is ticked and you then print out this form, what happens is, in addition to it printing out through your printer, this copy is also saved in Genie, meaning it can be looked at and reprinted at any point. So remember, in the special menu, we have quite a few different forms. If you want to use your own, our knowledge base has information on how to create those custom forms yourself. So in my experience, that there are instances where gastroenterologists need to prescribe medications, and quite often we find that it is the same medication with maybe the same dose, frequency, and instructions. Quick scripts are designed to save you time, because the idea is that we save your common medications with their dose, frequency, and instructions as a favorite, allowing it to be used at a later point in time. So quick scripts are located in the quick script drop-down menu. If you want to add your own medication as a quick script, how it works is we click the plus button to search for our medication. Over here, we then type in the name of the medication we wish to use. For instance, I'm going to search for fluconazole. And I double click on the variant I wish to use. I type in my dose, my frequency, and any applicable instructions. I click the Add to Quick Script button at the bottom. Nothing appears. This is normal. If I cancel out of my Quick Script list, and I click the Quick Script drop-down menu, you can see that fluconazole has been added to the list. To paper or e-prescribe it, I just choose it from the list, and then I go through the paper or e-prescribing process. Next. What happens if you want to delete a quick script from your list? You first click the list. You hold down the Option key if you're on a Mac, or the Alt key if you're on Windows. Whilst holding down that key, you click on the one you want to delete. Let go of the key afterwards, and what you'll see is the quick script has been removed from the list. One thing I like to mention about quick scripts as well is it's not for this one patient. It will appear for any future patient that you have. So it's useful if you do the same prescription multiple times throughout your day. We can save you some time here as part of quick scripts. Next, I'm going to be focusing on tips in our Gentu software. The first tip I like to show for our Gentu customers is pathology sets. The idea behind a pathology set, it's where you've got a list of investigations and they all fall under the same name. So for instance, before operation, you might do the same 5 tests. You might be looking for a certain condition, so you do the same 4 or 5 tests. So to add a pathology set in Gentu, we first go to our Add Request window. We search for the pathology tests that we do, one at a time. So FBC, electrolytes, LFTs, and ESRs. I click Create Set. Now I choose a label. So in this case, I'm going to call it Standard Screen. I hit the tick. So you see, it appears Standard Screen. If you want to, you can remove a set. And this is how you use it in the future, Standard Screen. Then we search for any additional tests in addition to the Standard Screen we wish to use. So I strongly recommend pathology sets because it ensures that when you're doing a request for a patient and it's for a certain condition, that you know you've covered up on all the tests that you need. You can take a photo in Gentu using your mobile phone. The advantage of this is the photo does not belong on your phone and it gets uploaded directly into Gentu. To do this, we open the web browser from our phone and we log into Gentu. We go to the appointment diary and we choose the patient we wish to take a photo for. We choose Add, then Attachment. Choose File, Take Photo or Video. We take the photo using our camera on our phone, and we choose Use Photo. We can give this a name, so I'm going to rename this to, for instance, be a lesion, but you can use this for whatever you'd like. There's also a drop-down menu for category, and there's different categories you can choose from. So I'm going to choose Procedure because this is to do with a procedure. When I choose Upload, it uploads directly into Gentu. So the nice thing about taking a photo, it does not belong on your phone, and you can use this for anything you would like. So for instance, I use it there for a procedure, but maybe you're doing some inpatient rounds and you wish to take a photo of the patient's and hospital demographic form. You can do that, and then it gets uploaded directly into Gentu, allowing admin staff to type in the demographic information of the patient. Now, just like taking a photo from a phone, when you add an attachment into Gentu, you can change the category, which means the attachment will appear in the relevant tab of the patient's clinical file. So first thing we do, we click the Add menu, we choose Attachment. We click Choose File, and we next choose the files we wish to upload into Gentu. Here we can rename each file, so this will populate with a different description. So I'm going to do that for the first one. Next, we can change the category, which means it'll appear in the relevant tab of the patient's clinical file. Attachment has a paperclip icon. Consult note will appear alongside typed consultation notes. Diagnostic report will appear alongside electronic pathology and radiology. Correspondence will appear alongside letters in and out, and procedure will appear alongside your typed procedure notes. So in this instance, I'm going to be choosing correspondence. Next, I'm going to rename my second item, and I'm going to click the category drop-down menu, and I'm going to categorize this as a diagnostic report. When I go upload, you will see that that letter appears with a page icon. If I go to my diagnostic report section, you can see the picture appeared alongside a electronic result. If you want to change the category of an existing item, the three dots icon, then Edit, means that you get this screen, and from here, I'm going to change this, or you can change the file name. I'm going to change the category to Attachment, and you'll see now in the paperclip icon, this is how it appears. All takes me back to everything, and you can see here it's also got a paperclip icon. So I like to call Gentu your document management system. So anything you attach into Gentu, you can recategorize so it appears in the right section for you. Now, as you may already know, in addition to the core offerings of Genie or Gentu, there are some optional additions that some practices use to help get these tasks done more effectively and efficiently. By partnering with select companies who provide these products, we can integrate them into Genie and Gentu and provide even better solutions that connect directly into practices' workflows. And this makes practices' lives easier. If you would like to know anything more about these products, please visit our website or get in touch with my sales team. I will now hand back over to Michele to wrap up today's presentation.
So you heard a little bit about voice from Neve, our dictation in Gen 2. And I'm sure many of you are already aware of DMO or Dragon Medical One. Both those products are powered by Nuance. We're really pleased to say that we've been able to negotiate with Nuance a 30-day free trial and make that available to anyone that wants to use Voice or Dragon for the first time. They don't normally do this, so it was a little bit of a negotiation, but really pleased to be able to offer that to you. So after this webinar, you will receive an email with some information about that. And if you are interested in taking up that offer and giving either of those products a go, please do so. And it's an obligation free. Obviously, it's a trial for you to be able to experience the product. This webinar is just one way of communicating with you and continuing to raise awareness around what features and functionality we've got in our products and how to get the best out of them. And we also do free lunch and learns now. We've had those in place for about 6 months. So please look out for the newsletters for those. We do have one in July for Genie on Eclipse and Medicare. Very complex world in billing. We get a lot of inquiries about billing, and Gen 2 will be on improving your prescription experience on the back of the recent release of e-prescribing. We still do have group training face-to-face. The next one is in August, and they're in Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney and Perth. They're full day. And the topic changes each month. The next one is billing and quotes, a very, very popular course, because as I said, it's a complex area with Medicare and also the health funds there. So please do sign up or get your staff to sign up if they could benefit from improving their efficiency in the billing and quote area for Gen 2. I'm sure you're all aware of the 1300 number with support, and that our support is open Eastern time, 7:30 to 7 for Genie, 7:30 to 6 to Gen 2. But we know you can't always get on the have time in your busy practices to get on the phone, or you may have inquiries after hours. So that's why we are constantly updating our knowledge base. We have dedicated staff that are always adding more information there. So it's a great source to answer many of your questions. If you can't find the answer there, you can submit a ticket or an email and someone will get back to you. But more recently, we've introduced live chat. So live chat is staffed during those support hours, and that's live with a person, not with a bot. And the feedback has been terrific, and we're getting increasing volume through that live chat day after day, particularly busy practices, your waiting room's full, you don't have time to pick up the phone, but you could have a chat going over to the side to just help keep things going. So that's another way that we're finding we can share information with you. In Gen 2, there's also the help question you can ask, search in there and bring up the knowledge base articles through Gen 2 as well.